Okay, thank you. I'd like to officially call to order this meeting of the Oil and Gas Technical Advisory Board. Before we do anything else, let's go around the room and introduce ourselves. I'm Gary Slagle. I'm the Technical Advisory Board, and today apparently the chairman du jour, so I'll be functioning in that role since Dr. Watson is not here. That's what we did to be in the last meeting. Bird Wade, Tad.
Archie Blank, Sam Fergale, Tab.
Seamus Malone, oil and gas, Bureau of Regulatory Resources. Scott Perry, Deputy Secretary for the Office of Oil and Gas.
Liz Nolan, Oil and Gas Program Attorney.
Kirk Latkowski, Director, Bureau of Oil and Gas Planning and Program Management.
Thank you.
Andrew Patterson, with the NSC.
Jeremy Kalachek, Commission Oil and Gas Environment and Living Food.
Carl Carlson, Range Resources.
Richard Fox with Sarah DTEC's office.
Tony Boltzman with K&L Gates.
Jean Sadiq with Bath County.
Jason Shoemaker of Shaw.
Dan Mueller, Environmental Defense Fund.
John Walliser, Pennsylvania Environmental Council.
I'm Jessica Shirley, I'm with the DEP Policy Office.
Jim Irv on behalf of ABI.
Thomas Howell, Sierra Club.
Stephanie Gowdy, Commission Corporation. Wendy Carson, Assistant Counsel for DCNR.
Marion Bly, Weather Services.
Brian Billman, Rex Energy.
Troy Merrill, DEP, Bureau of Information Technology.
Sean McGovern, Babs Callan.
Mike Malone with Stantec.
Marianne Heston, Citizen.
Lori Barstable, Strings PI.
Jeff Walton, Moving Associates.
Mark Roberts, Capital Oil and Gas.
Mariana Babbage, Public.
Rain Wilson, Anadarko.
Mark Barbier, Anadarko.
Sean Fabian with Arcadis.
Angel Cruz, Data Resources.
Mike Sherman, Range Resources.
Maggie Young, Chesapeake Energy.
Jennifer Hoffman, Chesapeake Energy.
Gina Myers, Buchanan, Ingersoll, and Rooney.
Good morning, Laura Trujillo, Citizens Advisory Council.
Ron Gretzel with Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. Paul King, Pennsylvania Environmental Council.
Paul Hubbard with Johnson.
Will Ratcliffe, Access Midstream.
Kevin Sunday, DEP Communications.
Jason Whitman, Bureau of Reg Council.
Okay, did we miss anybody? Okay, well, thank you. We apparently don't have any minutes to approve, is that correct?
That's correct. We had some staffing resource issues, and apologize for that, but we have committed to turning those minutes around within the first 10 days after that meeting from now on, so we don't run into this problem again.
Okay. All right, thank you. We have some additional representatives from the department.
Good morning, Gary. Elisa Harris.
Dan?
Dale Haddon.
Scott, why don't you go ahead and tell us what you view as the procedure for today?
Sure. It's a bit of a complicated procedure in that the department solicited comments on the original draft and did in fact receive several. And in reviewing those comments, it became apparent to me that several of them, or many of them, required an additional public conversation as to the direction the department should take. And therefore, the changes that we made from the February meeting to our April TAB meeting were fairly limited in scope. Having said that, however, all of these comments are worthy of additional consideration and conversation, but it is the department's belief that we are still very, very much at the beginning of this process, and that the document that I would like to move forward as a proposed rulemaking for the Environmental Quality Board in July is just that. It is just the beginning of additional conversations. And so having said that, I would ask the PAB to consider forming subcommittees or work groups to have additional meetings with the relevant stakeholders on the document and comments that we have received to date. So just as a summary, we received comments from the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy, Anadarko, just yesterday received comments from Tioga, also received comments from the Pennsylvania Environmental Council, in conjunction with the Environmental Defense Fund, the Marcellus Shale Coalition, and Terra Aqua. I apologize if I've forgotten any. And so all of those comments have been provided to TAB members. They were directed to the TAB, and you're certainly interested in discussing here today those comments that you felt were interesting or worthy of additional conversation. Where reasonable, I think we could make appropriate revisions to this draft here. But for those suggestions that might require additional conversation, I would ask that we hold additional subcommittee type meetings during the pendency of the proposed rulemaking, during that period from when it is offered as proposed, which I hope to be in July, up until the time at which it would be offered as final, which is a multi-month process.
Okay, for the benefit of everybody in the room, the focus today is Chapter 78, the draft proposed rulemaking. So, and those of you that don't have the benefit of the agenda in front of you, the plan is to start here in the next few minutes going through comments, revisions to Chapter 78 with a break around 11:30 for public comment. That will be followed by a lunch break, and then we'll recommence with reviewing Chapter 78 and going through the balance of the comments and/or revisions, and conclude then with an additional public comment period, and then some new business. So that's the agenda for today. Based on, I think, what Scott Perry has laid out, it's going to be a fairly full agenda. We've got a lot of concerns, I know, from the TAB side, a lot of comments we want to make and get the DEP's reaction to that. Scott and to this concept of forming the subcommittees, I think that's a great idea. And I guess as we go through this today, you'll have to maybe make a call with us on whether you think a comment that is raised is worthy of action today, or as you indicated, maybe if we move that down the road towards a subcommittee item and discuss it in depth at that level, and then come back to a full committee.
Sure, and I don't have a template for what would be acceptable to make range of changes today. Certainly, errors of some sort or clarifying language is certainly fair game. But more broader policy changes might be something that could benefit from additional discussion rather than just having more of a snap judgment kind of reaction to it. So we keep this for the purposes of this meeting, though. We're asking folks, you see the agenda, to first, if you want to comment, please sign up on our comment sheet that's at the head table, and then during the appropriate comment period, we can call you to the table to provide comment on regulation. But that process will enable us to, as you noted, Mr. Chairman, a lengthy agenda.
Okay, well, and then you want to work from the screen apparently.
Right, I felt that if there were issues, we could delineate them into the document so that members of the public and TAB would see that they've been captured correctly in our notes. Or if we are making changes, you can see the language as it appears.
Scott, before we start, I'm sorry, I was just going to ask if we could kill some of those lights so we can see the screen a little better.
Before we start through the document, Scott, an important part of that are still some missing elements. The forms that we're talking about. Do you expect to have those as part of the package that goes to the EQB in July?
No, I do not. What the department has committed to doing is to working with TAB and stakeholders to finalizing those documents before the rulemaking would go final. So there are a number of forms, and in particular, I would say the public resources evaluation form is one that is going to require some fairly considerable discussion. So this is probably one of the most topics that will create the most interest, and we'll have ample opportunity to finalizing that document during the pendency of this rulemaking. And in fact, we've committed that we will not finalize the rulemaking unless all of the forms that are necessary to implement it have been created. Just to start out, some of the concepts that I actually have noted for additional discussion for TAP's consideration as we go through this, as I say, multi-month process. As we were discussing this draft rule internally, a couple of other points came up independently, and they relate to storage of brine or flowback water in centralized tanks, odor control issues at centralized impoundments, additional review of potential geologic hazards during hydraulic fracturing, and I think those were the topics. Starting with the tank farm. One of the things we were discussing with our waste program was that we, the oil and gas program, have created certain rules for the storage of wastewater in centralized impoundments. But if you want to do the exact same thing in a tank, currently the oil and gas program does not offer a similar process or path. Instead, you must go with the waste program's 123 permit. And if thought it was worth